that artificially represses your urge to breathe, and essentially you can pass out underwater. So there's, kids, you've probably seen warning things about teenagers doing stupid things with breath-holding games and things like that, where they're trying to black themselves out to where they feel dizzy and holding their breath. And well, they can also do these things in water. Typically, this is not something that happens, on purpose. It's just It's just through a lack of education. They don't know that this can happen. But a lot of times, it's happening to very experienced swimmers who are just trying to push themselves, and they're trying to get further underwater and see how far they can go. And basically, they're blacking out underwater and drowning. So there's a lot of information online about this, and if you'd like further information, I can send it to you as well. But I don't have time to go into great detail tonight on it. If you do have lifeguard services, it's a great thing to put in your newsletter. Please respect the lifeguard. If you have a problem with their behavior, or you don't think they made the right call, contact the board. The board then can contact the pool company and say, hey, Mrs. Smith was down there on Saturday and the lifeguard was doing this, or they don't think they handled that right. You have to keep in mind that the guards, first of all, most of them are teenagers. This is their first or second job. They're still learning responsibility. They're certainly not perfect. And if their authority is challenged, or they're made to look stupid in front of the whole community, it's going to be very hard for them to function going forward in an effective manner at your pool. So it's better to handle, coaching moments kind of off to the side and through the correct channels instead of berating somebody publicly. Now, if it's a safety concern, immediate safety concern, you need to obviously address that right away, but typically for routine type stuff, it's recommended to go through the proper channels. Great time to remind your residents of your guest policy and your pool party reservation policy. Pool parties cause problems every year where people don't, people feel like, well, I pay my dues and I can just bring as many people as I want to the pool whenever I want, and I don't have to worry about how that affects other people or the safety of the other pool users, particularly if there's a lifeguard down there. You want to make sure that the lifeguard to patron ratio is not exceeded in a way that makes it unsafe for that guard to supervise everything that's going on. Most pool companies will have a policy for you to help advise you on that. Evaluate your pool access control system. I talked earlier about swipe cards or key fob systems. Those are the types of systems that we recommend as much as possible. They are more expensive, but they give you ultimate control. So if people, if Mrs. Smith doesn't pay her dues, turn off her card. If you have a code, it doesn't take long for codes to get out, especially once the kids know. If you have a key, you can make it non-duplicable, but they're, and that's not a bad system, but it is going to be more hassle for you or your property manager because people are going to lose their keys. They're going to be, and if you can't turn a key on or turn a key off if somebody doesn't pay their dues. You have to rekey the whole thing, and then that's quite expensive. Verify that you do have proper coverage for your homeowner association as well as your pool service provider. There's a lot of for homeowners association, you want to have proper coverage for the facility. You also want to have directors and officers coverage for you guys as board members, because if something happens and the board is sued for an action or decision that you made, that directors and officers insurance is very important. For your pool service provider, they should have a number of different types of coverages. They should have general and professional liability. A lot of companies only have general liability, and not all general liability policies are appropriate for pool service, particularly if you're also hiring for lifeguards. If you have a policy through a typical name brand company that you would maybe use for your home, like let's say State Farm, Allstate, Nationwide, something like that, Liberty Mutual, all good companies, but their policies are typically not designed for a pool company that is servicing your pool. So if that's the company that they have, they probably don't have the right coverage. Work comp insurance is important. If they get injured, obviously on your site, you want to make sure that there's not a suit against the association, that their employer is going to cover that And then auto liability is important as well. If they're driving a company vehicle, obviously that should not be a problem. But what often happens, well, there's one company in town I know that has their employees drive their personal vehicles all the time to service the pools. And so I don't know what that company's policy is, but if that individual person has an accident on your property, rear ends somebody or hits a kid in the parking lot, are they going to have coverage to cover that? I don't know. So it's something that you would want to look into and make sure that before that comes down, because wherever the insurance coverage is where the attorneys are going to be. So if that person doesn't have proper coverage, they're going to try to figure out a way, how can we make this an issue for the association, or the association should have known that, and therefore, we're going to try to get money out of the association's insurance, which then just jacks up your rates. So you want to make sure that your provider has you covered. Consider getting an AED for your clubhouse or pool house. These are expensive devices, but they are potentially life-saving devices. Research has shown that if you have an AED nearby and you can get it to a heart attack victim within the first 5 to 10 minutes, you can increase their chances of survival by over 30%. So it's a pretty neat thing to have. They've made these things just about dummy-proof. Really, all you have to do is push the on button and it walks you through. You used to have to take a class to know how to use it, but it's pretty basic now. All of our guards and everybody's guards that are getting certified, you have to learn how to do it, but it is super basic. The one caveat is these are expensive. If you've got time where you've got so much onerous time and it's unsupervised, somebody could steal or damage that AED. That's going to be upsetting if that happens. So just keep in mind, they do have storage containers for them that you can put them in that are durable, that protect them from the weather and stuff like that. The other thing, if you do get it, check the battery. You got to check the battery on it. An AED is not going to do any good if the battery dies on it. Typically, those things have like a couple-year life on them, and then they've got to be replaced. A couple legal updates in the world of swimming pools. So a couple things really interesting that are very recent, just happened this year. House Bill 219, this is from the Georgia State Legislature, has passed now, both the state House and Senate, and is waiting for signature on the governor's desk. We don't know if it's going to happen or not, but basically what this does is it allows pools that have smaller pools to opt out of routine pool inspections by the Department of Public Health. We don't recommend that you do that, but it is something that is out there and available. If you were to, you still have to go through an initial inspection, but basically you could opt out of future routine inspections that happen after the initial pre-opening inspection by doing that. But you have to send a form if this passes. We still don't know if it's going to be signed. Well, I'm sorry, it did pass. We don't know if it's going to be signed, and then it would officially be law.
What's the definition of smaller?
If your bather load is 75 or less.
If what?
If your bather load in the pool is 75 or less, this could apply to you. If your bather load is over 75, then you can't opt out. This kind of has an interesting story behind it, and I was involved in going back and forth on this thing. This bill started with a state rep out of Brunswick, Georgia, who was trying to help a constituent that was being hassled by the health department down there. Basically, this health department official was coming out on a daily basis and citing and fining them for violations that they were finding and shutting the pool down, and it was just costing them a ton of money. It was a big hassle. Well, it was a condo development. It was in a lower income area, and they had a lot of vandalism issues. And so the pool would be safe to swim one day, somebody would break something the next day, and then the guy would come out, he'd shut him down, and it just got to be a real hassle. So the initial draft of this bill was basically to remove all Department of Health oversight of all community pools. As an association, Association of Pool and Spa Professionals, we stood up and said, hold on, that is not a good idea. We can't do that. That really opens up a huge safety issue and a huge liability issue for associations as well as the companies that service those associations. So we were able to get it modified and change significantly to where there has to be at least the initial opening inspection, and then only the smaller communities, pools can opt out after that. As I said, it has passed the state legislature. We just don't know if the governor's going to sign it or not.
And so this is what you're referring to on the front page about the pool permitting process, that's the Department of Public Health?
Yes, that goes through the Department of Public Health. And right now, everybody's got to do it. So if the governor signs this, this would be something that would potentially take place next year. We're already going to go too far into this year too.
But we also need to remember as board members, if we opt out, that has an implication on our liability as board members,
Excellent point.
as well as our obligation to our members
Yeah.
to provide the ultimate safety. But when you begin to opt out, our attorneys talked with us on this when it came up, because we were part of the survey, and one of our members actually went down to the legislature to testify against this passage.
Great.
And one of the things that came out in that discussion is we always have to look at what's our decision as a board is a member.
Are you making decisions in the best interest of the community and the safety of the residents of the community? And this is, we felt very strongly as an association that, I'm preaching to the choir right here, but there are a lot of associations out there that, are just totally uninformed, and if they figure, oh, well, if I don't have to be inspected by the health department, we can open up our pool. And there are associations, I don't know how many, but I would say, well over 100, I would say, where their pools were shut down when the recession hit because not enough people were paying dues. And they never became compliant with Virginia Grand Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act. And they have all kinds of violations with holes in the fences and everything. And these folks could conceivably say, we want to open up our pools, and they could do it, and the residents and the community would have no way of knowing that there was no health inspection and that these unsafe conditions existed. So we were very much against that, and thankfully we got these revisions done so that couldn't happen.
But there would have to be an initial compliance first.
There
All
would,
this
yes.
does is alleviate any routine inspections of, hey, I'm with the health department and I'm just.
Correct. This basically prevents, if it allows the freedom. We figured out with these revisions, we figured out a way to address the original constituents' concerns of just being hassled and pestered by this health department inspectors, just being unreasonable, but still balancing the safety aspect of we got to have at least one inspection. Originally, it was saying that you could opt out, and you would still have to comply with the state health department requirements. But there's absolutely no enforcement arm that the state has. There's one guy for the entire state of Georgia who has the responsibility of writing the state pool code, and there's no way he's getting around to check all these pools. So there's literally no enforcement. It was just on the honor system where you'd say, okay, I'm opting out, and sure, I'll comply, wink, wink, and who knows what would happen. So
Do people opt out because they want to save the $512 or whatever the figure was you quoted?
that was a concern as well, and so the departments of health were obviously they were concerned because they were going to lose a lot of funding potentially if this happened as well. So that was another issue, and so they were also against it. But now that with the revisions, you have to have that initial inspection. You have to pay that fee. So that was removed from
Is that only the initial inspection fee, or do we have to pay every year?
Every year. Every year. But it would remove, so let's say you did opt out. You could, you'd still have to have the initial opening inspection, and then let's say it's middle of June, July now, and a resident is concerned about a condition that they see at the pool. They could call the health department and say, hey, I'd like you to come check this out. And they would still come down and respond, and they would fill out an inspection report, but it would be informational only. They would not have, if you had opted out, they would not have the authority to shut you down or fine you. They would only document, here's what I found when I came out to XYZ Association.
But under this law, so I'm confused, are you saying every year you have to have the initial inspection, you just can't be hassled thereafter? So you're not really going to get out of paying the fee if you opt out?
You're not going to get out of paying the initial opening fee. You could get out of future fees if you're, if you're running into issues where your pool is getting shut down a lot and you're getting fined, throughout the season, you would get out of those fees, but you would not get out of the initial fee.
But I think the scary part is if you opt out and someone complains and the inspector comes and he writes up some deficiencies, he doesn't file a report, he doesn't fine you, but that's document is a
Document.
record.
Yep.
And if something were to happen there, that would really increase your liability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big
So
dog.
we really,
Negligence to public.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, you get proof right there that,
The other thing
Especially
that was a
if-
shame from what you described, to me is a concern, I don't believe up here in Johns Creek we have a worry about maintaining our facilities.
right,
But it sounds like that change in the law could put children at less financial facilities
absolutely,
at risk.
yes. That was my chief concern. And this
And-
came out, and our concern as the association board was children, just, putting them at risk, innocent kids that had no idea, and their parents wouldn't even know. If the pool's open, you're trusting that it's safe to be open, you don't think twice, it's okay. So, yeah, that's, and even out, and this is statewide, so, there's a lot of low-income areas around the entire state that this could affect. So the next thing, and this is number 2, this is hot off the press, just happened this week. The Department of Community Affairs approved a new statewide pool construction code, the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, for residential pool construction will become mandatory in 2017. And this just basically covers basic safety and construction requirement minimums. So what that does is, here in the local Atlanta area, you've got, for community pools, most counties have requirements on how the pools have to be built, and there is a state code for that as well. But for residential pools, there is not a statewide requirement at this time. There is an optional, this same code that just passed was adopted 2 years ago as what they call a permissive code, which means they put it out there, and they tell all the local municipalities, all the counties and cities, if you want to adopt this, you can. We have approved, we put our blessing on it, it's a good code. And so now what they're doing is they're saying in 2017 it's going to be mandatory. So now, and what this is going to do is a good thing. This is only for residential construction, so backyard pools here. But it will eventually, they're going to take pieces of this code, and it will expand into a newly revised state code for commercial pool construction, probably in a few years. It'll take some time, but it'll have a ripple effect. But basically what it's going to do is it's going to force pool contractors in the state of Georgia to follow basic minimums when it comes to safety and construction standards. Because right now, what we saw happen, and it's been a major problem across the state actually, is when the recession hit, a lot of disreputable companies popped up offering pool construction for very low prices and then cutting all kinds of corners. And there's been issues that you may have heard in the news about people getting electrocuted in pools, or other suction entrapment hazards, or pools just being built completely improperly, falling apart. Contractors taking down payments, digging holes, and then skipping town and leaving customers. So all kinds of stuff like that. So this basically will help the consumers hold contractors accountable. This is another thing that, as an association, we have been pushing toward, because it's better for consumers. It's also better for the industry, because it's really difficult as a reputable pool contractor to say, well, here's what it should cost to build your pool, when this disreputable guy is saying, well, I can do it for $10,000 less, and it's apples and oranges, but the consumer doesn't know that. So that's going to be mandatory in 2017. And then I think I've run over my time, so I'll try to wrap up here. But drowning and water safety information, I mentioned before, I do have a local chapter of the National Drowning Prevention Alliance, which is called the Greater Atlanta Water Safety Alliance, where we do water safety education. So if you're looking for anything water safety related, we do have a Facebook page. I'd encourage you to go on there and like us on there. And I post regular stories that are related to water safety and swimming and recreational swimming, as well as the sport of swimming. But our mission is that we try to do water safety education. So we do offer articles, materials, water safety presentations for all different audiences. We've done them for swim coaches, we've done them for communities, water safety, we've done lifeguards, property management, you name it, schools, churches, we can do. So if you're looking for programs, I can come and speak on that. These are also available for, if you want to post them at your pool as well. And yeah, just a couple interesting facts on there. Drowning is still the leading cause of accidental injury death from children ages 1 to 4. And it's the second leading when you expand that out to 18. May is National Water Safety Month, so that is next month. So it's the perfect time to put a water safety message out as pools are open. If you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them, but I apologize I have run over, so
That's fine.
turn it
We
over.
got a later start. Anybody have any questions?
Sure.
Just a technical thing. If you haven't received your permit, what do you do? If you don't have it, or your pool management company, or anybody who could possibly have it?
Contact Fulton County. The lady's name is Mary Shorter.
Okay.
And she is responsible for issuing all permits. I don't know her number off the top of my head, but it's the Fulton County Health Department Central Office. They have 3 offices. She's at the central office, and she's the one that handles the permits for the entire county. Now, your inspector will come from the north office, which is in the Alpharetta area, but the permitting is handled from the central office.
Thank you.
What about pets in the pool? People want to bring their dogs in.
Pets are not allowed in the pool area. I think, the service dogs are kind of the gray area. I don't know, haven't seen an issue with that. They certainly can't get in the pool. That's, I don't know if, technically the code says pets are not allowed in the pool area. While the pool is open for swimming. Now, we do have some customers that have done like a doggy swim event at the end of the season. If you're interested in doing something like that, we can certainly do that. The pool company may be able to arrange that, but it really shouldn't be done while the pool's open to swimmers. So, and we recommend just doing it at the end of the season. There's a lot of cleanup usually involved after that. A lot of hair gets in the pool, and some of them have accidents, and so we typically recommend against it, but